So I've been using this iPhone 11 Pro for almost 2 years right now. And the big question is, should you go for this phone in 2025? Like this phone is actually 6 years as of this year, right? So how is it holding up in terms of other phones we've seen being released this year, in terms of the performance, the camera, and every single feature about this phone? Is it still worth it? Okay, on this video, I'm going to be telling you the pros of getting this phone this year and the cons of getting this phone this year. And at the end of the day, I'll give my final verdict on if this phone is what you're going for today or you should just go for that device. Remember, that is what I do right on my channel where I tell you phones that are what you're going for or phones you should dodge and save your money. Okay, so before I get started, guys, if you love what you're about to hear on this video, and give it a thumbs up. And guys, my goal is to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So I want you guys to just kindly hit the subscribe button below and turn on the bell notification icon so you guys can help me achieve, my goal. Okay, now let us get started to if this phone is really worth it. I'm going to be starting with the cons and then move over to the pros. Now, the very first cons of getting this phone today is this phone is old. So it was released September 2019. That is about 6 years, ago, right? And most people, when going for a phone, they don't like, old device. They rather go for, something new. So if you're a fan of getting a new device, then this is out of the list. The second con on my list is the battery. Remember this is a 6 years old phone. It means you cannot see a brand new version in the market today. Okay, so if you're going for this one this year, you are going for a used. And this means that the battery capacity is not going to be 100. And we all know that iPhones on a normal they don't last, right? It does not last so long. I mean, imagine now getting a used phone, which has been out in the market for over 6 years. The battery is going to be so, it's going to be deteriorated. So it means you need to get power banks. Like, having this phone, I have about 3 to 4 power banks, right? So that whenever I leave my house, I know that my phone does not go off. Okay, I know most of you at this point will go to computer and say you can change the battery. Well, most of my viewers, which are Nigerians, when you go to change your battery, you are not sure if they are giving you the original battery or this whole computer village boys battery. So now that's another thing you need to look out for because most of them after changing the battery, you're going to notice that you know it start affecting the phone itself because the battery can make your phone overheat or lag. If the battery they added to your 11 Pro, if you're going to go for it at the end of this video, is not good, it may affect the phone itself, right? So that is another problem. But let's say you're in another country where you can get an original battery for the 11 Pro watching this video, then still stick with me to the very end because I still have other cons on my list before I head over to the pros. Then you will decide if this phone is the one for you to go for. Okay, so the battery it doesn't last so long anymore, right? For the battery capacity, when I got this phone, it was around 79, but right now it's currently 73%, the maximum battery capacity, which means it's going to die faster than usual. Right now, this phone lasts me for about 3 hours, 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not even doing so much heavy tasks. And the next one is this phone does not support 5G. It was from the 12 series, right? The 12 Pro and rest of them that had the 5G. But over here, we have still 4G. Now, that does not mean that this is not fast in terms of browsing. Okay, this is actually still good. But if you want, a faster browsing phone, right, you should not go for this. However, like, some other phones released this year, like the Infinix, the Techno, the Idol and rest of them, they still come with 4G regardless of it being released this year. So in terms of the your network, I don't think this is like so much of a big cons, right, that you're going to just look into. But if you want a 5G phone, then do not go for this. Now, the fourth con on my list is the chipset being used. So this came out with A13 Bionic chipset. Now, as at the time this phone came out, it was one of the, most powerful chipset on a smartphone. Yes, it could handle every single thing you could do as at that time. But however, 6 years ago, right now we have, I think, the A13 Pro chipset on smartphones. And we've seen, heavier performance on smartphones, release after that. You're playing heavy games and everything you can think of doing on a smartphone is very heavy. So now these chipsets, even is going to handle it, right? But it's not going to be so smooth as a phone released this year. It's going to handle. Like I'm talking about flagship devices right now. I'm not talking about compared to all this entry-level phones, Itel, Techno, Infinix, right? Because even some phones released this year, the chipset on this 11 Pro is even more powerful. I'm talking about entry-level phones, right? So while this chipset is outdated, it is kind of old, right? Okay, but it can still handle your task. I still kind of play games on this phone, even though I'm not much of a gamer. Like I had my Call of Duty, my Clash of Clans, and even all these normal games which any phone can actually carry. The Candy Crush, Subway Surf, and the rest of them. Okay, and so far it handled it well. Okay, so while playing game, I noticed that it was kind of overheating. It did not lag, but it was overheating, and thereby my phone was even dying fast. I remember the battery issue, right? So these are the things to note. So even though the chipset is durable, it is not so strong. Next on my list is the software updates. So currently we have the iOS 26 coming out. As an point I'm making this video, it is still in the beta version iOS 26, right? And we've seen a lot of amazing features, but even though the 11 Pro is going to be getting the updates, I have advised those in my community do not update your iPhone 11 Pro to, this whole iOS 26. Why? First of all, most of the features coming out on iOS 26 is like an AI features, right? They are AI features. And last year when the iOS 18 was released, we noticed that those AI features were, reserved for mainly the 15 Pro and Pro Max with the 16 series. So we already expect something similar, right? Just little features that the 11 Pro is going to get. And since this year, the 11 Pro is like the last line of phone that is going to be getting the series because we don't have it anymore in the X series, right? This means is it's not going to be getting so much of an update. And whenever, certain phones like this upgrades to the next iOS version, they tend to notice, some issues with their phone. If it's the phone start overheating out all of a sudden, or your battery start draining even faster, okay, because the battery and the chipset is not optimized for that kind of updates, right? So it means you shouldn't even think of updating your phone to the iOS 26 if you are paying for this phone now. This kind of means your phone is not getting outdated, right? It's already outdated. So if you're looking for a phone that can have the latest, software update, then I don't think this is the one for you to go for. All right. So now I have talked about 5 cons, okay, of using this phone in 2025. Now here are the pros of getting this phone in 2025. And the very first one is, one thing about iPhone is it has a premium build, right? Now, even though I'm using a case and I'm going to my bureau over here, right? I'm going to record this. The phone over here has cracked, right? Yes. But this is, the phone has kind of fallen different times and all. Besides that, this phone is still solid. I told you guys I bought this phone used, right? And I've been using it for about 2 years. And I haven't gone to any phone technician to repair any part of this phone. That is how solid this phone can be. When it comes to build, we know that iPhone also, they are good at that part. So you still have a premium build regardless. And now the design. Let me use phone now. Okay. We know that iPhone has been copy and paste since this 11 Pro because we have the same thing for 11 Pro, 12 Pro, 13 Pro, 14 Pro, 15 Pro, 16 Pro. Then finally, for the 17 Pro release this year, what we are saying is that they're going to kind of just tweak the whole design a bit, right? So if you're using this 11 Pro, you are not really missing out in terms of the whole design, right? Because it's just something very much similar. Now, the next one on my list is the charging. So let's say the fact that this phone dies very fast. Well, it also charges very fast and it supports this whole wireless charging. Okay, so within about few hours, your phone has filled up, and you also know that yes, few hours your phone is also dead. So I think it's kind of a plus here and I think the minus here also. Yes. Now the next one on my list is the camera because now the truth is most people go for an iPhone because of the camera, right? They feel that iPhone has the best camera, right? And the 11 Pro is actually not left out. This phone actually has, you know, amazing camera quality. Okay, I'm going to be doing a camera test for you guys right now, so you guys can see, the quality of this phone's camera. It can actually shoot videos both in 4K for the rear and the front camera. So you are getting a high quality. And all cameras on this phone, both the selfie and the true rear cameras, are 12 MP. Okay, so I think for the camera quality, comparing to certain phones released this year, it is still a big win. Yes, I won't lie. Okay, I will still come to the price and compare it to certain phones I've reviewed on my channel and now tell you, okay, if you should go for this one because of this thing or that one, or should go for this other phones, right? I'll also come to the price and my final verdict. Okay, now apart from the camera, which I'm sure you guys have seen the whole, you know, quality right here on my screen. Okay, and now the next one is the security. This one uses the passcode and the face ID. Okay, and the thing about this one is I don't think no other person can open your phone with their, Face ID. Now, why am I saying this is because, when it comes to my Samsung S23 over here, I barely use my Face ID. Why? It is not as accurate as this, my 11 Pro. I only use my PIN or my fingerprints on my phone over there, while I use mostly my Face ID on this. So imagine the S23 was released, I think, around 2023, right? If I'm not mistaken. Okay, and this was released 2019, but this Face ID is even more stronger than that. So in terms of security, this is good. Now, I'm not saying the security on the Samsung is not good. The security on Samsung is solid, but I'm talking about on the Face ID specifically. And the last thing on my list, which is a pro again, is resale value. Now, one thing about iPhones in general, it has a very good resale value. Okay. So even if I want to sell this phone tomorrow, let's say now I want to swap my phone for something higher, it still has a very good market value, unlike other phones. And that's actually one of the reasons why I kind of love iPhone. Other phones don't have it. We don't see it in Techno, Itel, Infinix, Redmi. Sometimes Samsung, some of Samsung series, right, don't have a good market value. Just the S series and probably the Z Fold, you can actually sell at a high value. Okay, but iPhone entirely have good resale value. So if you're getting this phone today and let's say 6 months later you want to upgrade to another device, then you can still just top up, add some money and get a new one. All right, so this is like the end of my whole pros and cons list. Okay, and let's talk about the price. So this phone is only around 500K, right? Depending on the SSD you're going for. Okay, and looking at this price points, the phones released this year that's around this price. This should be the Infinix Infinix Note 50 Pro Plus, right? And I think the Camon 40 Pro Plus released few months ago. And I'm looking at these phones, right? Honestly, I'll actually go for those other phones instead of this, right? Because of the whole price. And now this phone released this year has a lot more features like that is actually very good. However, while I would suggest or advise you guys to go for this one is now, one thing about other phone brands like Infinix, Tecla, and the rest of them, after a few years, you notice everything drops. The performance on the phone drops, the camera quality drops, like everything on the phone just drops. But when it comes to this iPhone, it still retains its quality. So I think this is actually still a good buy this year. Yeah. And if you're thinking of going for any iPhone at all, this should be, you know, the the least or like call it the worst iPhone in your mind to go for. Okay. So it means if you must go for an iPhone this year, go for the 11 Pro. Or if you have more money to spend, go for, a more recent, iPhone. Okay. But guys, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. If you're going for this phone this year, or, from everything I've talked about, the camera quality, the performance, the battery, the charging, the Bluetooth, every single thing about this phone, the price, yes, if you think is what you're going for this year. Okay, and I'll see you guys in the comment section also in my next videos where I compare other gadgets and tell you if they are what you're going for, or you should just always dodge it and save your money. Do not forget, guys, if you've not done that, just kindly give it a thumbs up and also click on the subscribe button below and turn on the notification icon so that when I create movies like this, you guys will be the first to get notified. So guys, I will see you in my next video.